I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. At this point my cat woke up and jumped on me as if to protect me. What is the creepiest thing that's happened to you personally that made you question reality?
So, I'm a die-hard atheist, but I can't fully explain this one. I have a big family, like really big. Last count, I had around 20 cousins. One day we were all hanging out in the family farm, and decided to spend the night. We just did girls in a room, and boys in another, and everything was going fine. It was around 4 in the morning when I woke up to one of my cousins standing by the door. The hallway light was on and shining on my face, so I could only see his outline, but I knew it was Josh. I asked him what was he doing, and if he needed something, but he didn't move, and my eyes were starting to adjust. I could see more details, but I couldn't see his face. I was really sleepy and confused. When the hallway light, Josh's shape, everything disappeared. It was just darkness, and an open door. I knew I was awake, because I was sitting down. I decided to get one of my roommate cousins up, and go check on the boys. Josh had an allergy to something, he didn't want it to bother anyone, so he took a Benadryl and went to bed. When I checked on him he wasn't breathing. We got my uncle up, he gave Josh some heavy-duty medication, and we took him to a hospital. Everyone was fine. Josh told me he knew I was insomniac, and while he was suffocating, unable to make a noise, he kept praying I couldn't sleep, and decided to check on him.
Okay, this was recently and it still freaks me out. I was playing VR chat with my HTC Vice. I was sitting in my chair and just talking with friends when I all of a sudden heard something fall down or like someone tripped over something. Just some rumbling noise. I got confused because I was alone at home, so I lifted up my VR glasses and looked around in my room. I thought maybe something just simply fell down, but I couldn't find anything that looked different. And then all of a sudden I saw a chocolate bar wrapping on the floor. Perfectly neatly placed right in front of me and with the font even facing to me. Obviously I got confused and picked it up and looked at it. So the chocolate was missing, it was just the wrapping. But the problem is, I never bought this chocolate, nor did I eat it, nor did I ever even have this kind of chocolate. It was normal chocolate with nuts and grapes, and I'm not keen on those. It was just laying there. I never found out how it got there, and I never found out what the noise was I heard. I am still so confused and almost a bit scared by it. I constantly had dreams of a red-haired kid in my dad's childhood home. It was my paternal grandparents, and all my dad's sisters who lived there never had this ghost. No one believed me when I talked about this kid. He began to play in the bathroom with me because he loved to play in water in my dreams, and it was downstairs so the adults wouldn't hear the water running. We moved out, thinking this imaginary friend was a scream for help, or that, to my very superstitious parents, a ghost was contacting me. I recall an incident where I woke up in the bathtub with the water running one night and moving out 3 days later. My dad's cousins moved in and their children also talked about it. Mystery ginger kid with blue overalls, and green shirt. Socks only and horribly stained throughout. I had never met these kids before at that point, but I instantly loved them for backing up my story of the ghost kid. To the rest of the family, I was being bratty because I was no longer the only child. The weird part was that the kid inhabited the kitchen, he inhabited the bathroom and backyard in my dreams, and constantly asked for food, whereas he only liked to splash water in mine. My dad's cousins had the house blessed by the local priest when in the mornings 1 or 2 of the 5 kids would be seen covered in food stains or dead asleep on the kitchen floor surrounded by half-eaten food. A therapist explained it as a shared psychosis, but it doesn't explain my own version of the kid and his fascination with food for the other children. I saw a ghost. I've told this story before on other threads, but when I was about 17, I was at my friend's apartment building, which his parents owned. It was a pretty old building in the Pilsen neighborhood of Chicago, and according to his dad it used to be owned by Al Capone, but I'm not sure how true that was. We had an apartment on the top floor that they let us use to just hang out, and it allowed us easy access to the roof so we could go smoke cigarettes. One night, we were about to go up, but I had to pee, so I told him I'd meet him up there. After I was done, I went up the stairs to the attic portion that was connected to the roof. There were no lights, so we always used our phones to guide us. We had those old flip phones without lights, so you only had the light from the screen to help navigate the cluttered mess that was up there. As I made my way to the roof door, I saw a shadow pass by me. Now this wasn't like the shadow of something moving with the light of my phone, this shadow felt solid like a person. I followed the direction it went thinking it was my friend. I kept saying that I knew it was him and to stop playing around. It passed me a few more times, before heading to the other side of the attic, and that's when I heard my friend's voice from downstairs. He got a call from his girlfriend and was in another room talking to her the whole time. I have no idea what that shadow figure was, but it really freaked me out, and I told my friend what happened, and that I did not want to go back up there. I'm not really a supernatural person at all. I don't believe in ghosts or anything like that. I can explain anything creepy that happens when I'm alone usually. Or anything that just generally creepy happens. But as you could have guessed from that lead up in this question, there is one thing I still don't have an explanation for that I still think about. This happened around 5 years ago now, when I was still in high school. My sister and I were both walking up, and to get to the school we have to walk down a small dirt path that runs right next to a cemetery. Usually it's only us two using the path at that time in the morning. Sometimes you'll see someone walking a dog, but not often. We were walking down the path one morning, when my sister said she thought she could hear someone following us. We checked behind us and no one was there, but if I listened I could hear the clicking of high heels behind us as we walked. The sound followed us all the way off the path and stopped when we reached the main road and there were loads of people. We then heard it again when it was just us two alone walking in a back alley to get us to my sister's then BF's house. Neither of us heard it for the rest of the day after we joined up with her boyfriend, but for the rest of the time at school we both avoided using that path. We checked our bags to see if there was anything there that could make that sort of sound, but we both just had books in there. This isn't that creepy, all truth be told, but it's definitely had me thinking about things since it happened. Most of the time it's just easier to ignore it for my own sanity though. Precognitive dreams, mostly as a child, growing fewer and further between, until they stopped in my early 20s. The last I had was dreaming about the death of someone I cared very dearly about. A day later they drowned. That one affected me so badly that I think something simply switched off in my brain, and I no longer have precognitive dreams. I do, however, trust my intuition a lot in various circumstances. I work in hospice, spend a lot of time around dying people. About a month and a half ago one of my longer-term clients was actively passing. That can involve hallucinating, seeing and talking to people who aren't there. Happens a lot, there's nothing wrong with it, it's the dying person's brain trying to grasp with their new reality. So I work overnights. My client was wide awake, talking to people who were in the room with her but who weren't in the room with me. Which was fine. I'm okay with that. Until she started describing people I knew who had passed. I almost quit my job that night and told myself I wouldn't return to her. Most of the rest of her hospice care team started quitting in the next few days, and I ended up staying with her until the end. That one weird night was the only time she was talking to my dead family members. I'm still kind of messed up over it. My cat hated me for the first 7 years we had him. He was a feral that was tamed by my wife, and only accepted affection from her. My wife assured me that this was common for ferals. Then one day he suddenly warmed up to me, and wanted me to pet him. We've been best friends ever since. This was approximately 4 years ago, about the time that my wife's brain cancer was becoming aggressive. Even before we were aware of it. She died 2 years ago. It's like he knew it was just going to be the two of us one day. Sleep paralysis. A few years ago, I was dreaming I was talking to a friend of mine. So far, nothing weird. But then, for some reason, I realized that I was in a dream and the person I was talking with technically wasn't my friend. Suddenly, their appearance turned to black and I felt them pushing me down and holding me down in my bed. I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. At this point my cat woke up and jumped on me as if to protect me. Then, the dark silhouette or whatever that thing was vanished and I woke up. I swear I had red marks on my shoulders where that thing was holding me down in my dream. I was playing with our dog in the living room. At the time I was around 9 years old. We were doing our usual, only play like this when mom isn't home else she'll tell us to stop, type of playing. So basically playing fetch in the living room. At one point I threw the toy which caused it to ricochet out of the living room into the kitchen. Franz, our dog's name, chased it and disappeared around the corner to get it. At that exact moment the front door opened and mom walked in with Franz on a leash after a 2-hour walk over the beach and dunes. I tried to explain, but can't. I played with him for at least 15 minutes in, apparently. My imagination, but I just don't believe that. I always remember this and do not have an explanation for it. When I was about 4 or 5 years old I remember waking up in the middle of the night and walking to the stairs. I remember closing my eyes for a second at the top of the stairs and when I opened them I would be at the bottom of the stairs. I would run upstairs and close my eyes and the same thing would happen again. It happened at least 4 to 5 times until my parents called me to go to bed because they could hear me run up the steps. It's weird because I was wide awake and do not have a history with sleepwalking. I still think about it. And wonder how that was possible.
I've related this before, but I'll repeat it again. I can think of a few things that happened in my first year of college. I used to live in an apartment kind of place on campus, with 3 other people. We all had our separate bedrooms, but shared a living space. It was on the 7th floor, to give a better idea. Once, I woke up at around 2 a.m. to find that my phone was automatically playing a song. I closed the app, but it happened 2 to 3 times again. I would have put this down to my phone being weird, but then one of my roommates told me the exact same thing happened to her as well. This wasn't all. A few days later, I woke up to a beeping sound coming from my phone, and when I checked, it was apparently a sound recording. The duration showed as 0.00 though, which meant that it shouldn't technically play at all. I deleted it immediately. Another time, my roommate and I were watching a movie and had stayed up till 3. It ended and she went to sleep. After a few minutes, she burst into my room and asked me what I was doing. I was confused because I was just lying in bed, reading. She said that she heard very weird noises from the window, which she assumed I was making, to scare her or something. I went to her room and it sounded like heavy breathing/sighing. I told her it is just the wind. We opened the window and saw that the trees etc. were completely still. I don't have the same phone, room or roommates anymore, even though I still stay on campus. Like and subscribe for more of the darkest Reddit confessions.